Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am going to read some Peter Rabbit to you. I figured with school and everything, maybe a little reading would be fun. So we're going to read some Peter Rabbit. This is like a whole collection of Peter Rabbit. But first I'm going to find this little... It has like its own built-in bookmark. Yes, this is Jade's book. Yes, she is out of school. We're doing what we can at home. The complete Peter Rabbit. Now run along and don't get into mischief. Yes, my hair is a little weird today. Okay. Oh, so guess what I put in my workspace? Alexa, what's today's date?
It's Wednesday, March 18th.
So yeah, I put Alexa in my thing. I am trying. The Tale of Glossary. I'm trying to find. Okay, the Tale of Benjamin Bunny. Let's read this one. About this book. The real life Benjamin Bunny was a tame rabbit of Beatrix Potter's, whom she sketched constantly and whose exploits constantly amuse her. He is an abject coward, but believes in bluster, could stare our old dog out of something. One morning, a little rabbit sat on a bank. He picked his ears and listened to the teeter-totter of a pony. A gig was coming along the road. It was driven by Mr. McGower, and beside him sat Mrs. McGower in her best bonnet. As soon as they had passed, little Benjamin Bunny slid down into the road and set off with a hop, skip, and a jump to call upon his revelation, who lived in the woods at the back of Mr. McGurl's garden. Sorry if I mess up. That wood was full of rabbit holes, and in the nearest sandiest hole of all lived Benjamin's aunt and his cousin, Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. Old Mrs. Rabbit was a widow. She earned her living by knitting rabbit wools, mittens, and muffets. She also sold herbs and rosemary tea and rabbit tobacco, which is what we call lavender. Little Benjamin did not very much want to see his aunt. He came around the back of the free tree and nearly tumbled upon the top of his cousin Peter. Peter was sitting by himself. He looked poorly and was dressed in a red cotton pocket handkerchief. Peter, said little Benjamin in a whisper, "Who has got your clothes?" Oh boy, we're gonna see who has his clothes. Peter replied, "The scarecrow in Mr. McGur's garden," and described how he had been chased about the garden and had dropped his shoe and coat. Little Benjamin sat down beside his cousin and assured him that Mr. McGur had gone out in a gig. G-I-G. I'm not really sure what that is. And Mr. McGur also, and certainly for the day because she was wearing her best bonnet. Peter said he hoped that it would rain. At this point, old Mr. Rabbit's voice was heard inside the rabbit hole calling Cottontail. "Cottontail, fetch some more chamomile." Peter said he thought he might feel better if he went for a walk. They went away hand in hand and got upon the top of a the wall at the bottom of the wood. From here they looked down into Mr. McGuire's garden. Peter's coat and shoes were plainly to be seen upon the scarecrow, topped with an old tam-o shutter of Mr. McGuire's. Little Benjamin said, "It spoils people's clothes to squeeze under a gate. The proper way to get in is to climb down a pear tree." Peter fell down head first, but it was of no concern, as the bed below was nearly racked and quite soft. I had been snowed with lettuce. Apparently it had lettuce. Continuing, they left a great many odd little footmarks all over the bed, especially little Benjamin, who was wearing clogs. Little Benjamin said that the first thing to be done was to get Peter's clothes in order that they might be able to use the pocket handkerchief. They took them off the scarecrow. There had been raining during the night. There was water in the shoe, and the coat was somewhat shrunk. Benjamin tried on the T.O. shutter, but it was too big for him. Then he suggested that they should fill the pocket handkerchief with onions as a little present for his aunt. Peter did not see them to be enjoyable himself. He kept hearing noises. Benjamin, on the contrary, was perfectly at home and ate a lettuce leaf. He said that he was in the habit of coming to the garden with his father to get lettuce for their Sunday dinner. The name of the little Benjamin's papa was old Mr. Benjamin Bunny. The lettuce certainly were very fine. This is a really heavy book. Like, really heavy. Oh, goodness. Okay. Peter did not eat anything. He said he should like to go home. Presently he dropped half the onion. Little Benjamin said that it was not possible to get back up the pear tree with a loaf of vegetables. He led the way boldly towards the other end of the garden. They went along a little walk on planks. Under a sunny red brick wall, the mice sat on their doorstep cracking cherry stones. They winked at Peter Rabbit and little Benjamin Bunny. Presently Peter let the pocket handkerchief go again. They got amongst flower pots and frames and tubs. Peter heard noise worse than ever. His eyes were as big as lollipops. He was a step or two in front of his cousin when he suddenly stopped. Again, this book is pretty heavy. This is what those little rabbits saw around that corner. Little Benjamin took one look, and then in half a minute, less than no time, he had hid himself and Peter and the onions underneath a large basket. The cat got up and stretched himself, came and sniffed at the basket. Perhaps she liked the smell of onions. Anyway, she sat down upon the top of the basket. No, she just likes basket. All animals love baskets, especially cats. Like baskets and boxes. You get them something of their own and they don't like it. They prefer the box it came in. I should know. Oh no, that was my dog. If you hear a dog barking and people yelling, I'm sorry, I can't control what goes on upstairs. We're still reading Peter Rabbit. Okay. She sat there for 5 hours. I cannot draw you a picture of Peter and Benjamin underneath the basket because it was quite dark, and because the smell of onion was fearful, it made Peter Rabbit and little Benjamin cry. The sun got round behind the wood, and it was quite late in the afternoon, but still the cat sat upon the basket. Yeah, kitties love to do that. At length there was a pitter, pipper, patter, and some bit of mutter full from the wall above. The cat looked up and saw Mr. Old Benjamin Bunny prancing along the top of the wall at the upper terrace. He was smoking a pipe of Rbbit tobacco and had a little switch in his hand. He was looking for his son. I have no idea what that was. But we're almost done this story. Old Mr. Benjamin had no opinion whatsoever of cats. He took a tremendous jump off the top of the wall onto the top of the cat and cuffed it off the basket and kicked it into the greenhouse, scratching off a handful of fur. The cat was too much surprised to scratch back. When Mr. Old Bunny had driven the cat into the greenhouse, he locked the door. Then he came back to the basket and took out his son Benjamin by the ear and whipped him with the little switch. Then he took out his nephew Peter. Then he took out the handkerchief of onions and marched out of the garden. When Mr. McGregor returned about half an hour later, he observed several things which perplexed him. It looked as though some person had been walking all over the garden in a pair of clogs, only the footmarks were too ridiculously little. Also, he could not understand how the cat could have managed to shut herself up inside the greenhouse, locking the door upon the outside. Too clever is what I say. When Peter got home, his mother forgave him, but because she was so glad to see that he had found his shoe and coat. Cottontail and Peter folded up the pocket handkerchief, and old Mr. Rabbit strung up the onions and hung them from the kitchen ceiling with the bunches of herbs and the rabbit tobacco. I feel like I missed something, but I didn't. That was that story. Well, we'll read another story soon.